Nicolae Ceaușescu was born on January 26, 1918. In the rural village of Scornișecti in southern Romania's Alt County. He came from a poor peasant family. His father, Nicolae Ceaușescu, was a shepherd and a local official. Nicolae was one of 10 children and grew up in a deeply religious, working-class environment shaped by hardship and limited opportunity. Moved to Bucharest at the age of 11, Ceaușescu left his home village and moved to Bucharest, Romania's capital. There, he became a shoemaker's apprentice. Working under the supervision of a communist activist, it was in Bucharest that Ceaușescu became politically radicalized. Ceaușescu's involvement and arrests in his teens. Ceaușescu joined the Union of Communist Youth and soon became involved in anti-fascist and labor activism. This was during a time when the Romanian Communist Party (PCR) spanned and heavily suppressed by the monarchy and later the right-wing Iron Guard from the 1930s to early 1940s. He was arrested multiple times for distributing communist propaganda, participating in illegal strikes, organizing anti-government activities. He spent several years in prisons such as Doftana, where he met Gheorghe Gorgude, a future communist leader of Romania. This connection would later prove crucial to his rise. Political formation in prison. While imprisoned, Ceaușescu was exposed to hardcore Marxist-Leninist ideology and developed a reputation for loyalty, discipline, and ambition. His time in prison solidified his role as a committed party member and prepared him for a future in Romania's post-war communist hierarchy. Political radicalization and imprisonment. Political radicalization and imprisonment during his teenage years in 1930s Romania. Nicolae Ceaușescu became deeply involved in communist activism, a bold and dangerous move at the time, as the Romanian Communist Party (PCR) was outlawed and hunted by King Carol II's authoritarian regime. Early communist activities. Ceaușescu joined the Union of Communist Youth in his teens, likely around 1930 to 1933. He quickly gained a reputation for being disciplined, militant, and fanatically loyal to communist ideology. He was involved in anti-monarchy protests, labor strikes, and distribution of banned literature, much of it promoting Marxist-Leninist ideas. Arrests and surveillances repeated. Activism brought him into conflict with the authorities. Ceaușescu was first arrested in 1933 for anti-fascist demonstrations, imprisoned multiple times throughout the 1930s for distributing communist propaganda and organizing strikes, watched closely by the Romanian secret police due to his growing influence in underground networks. Imprisonment at Doftana prison in 1936. Ceaușescu was given a 2-year sentence for subversive activity. He was incarcerated at Doftana prison, a key detention center for communist activists. There, he came under the influence of Gheorghe Gorgude, a senior communist leader who would later rule Romania. Ideological training. Doftana became a kind of university for communists, where inmates educated one another in Marxism, Leninism, and Stalinist doctrine. Ceaușescu used this time to deepen his ideological commitment and form powerful connections within the future ruling elite of communist Romania. Wartime repression. During World War II, under the fascist-aligned Ion Antonescu regime, Ceaușescu was arrested again and spent time in Târgu internment camp. 1940s. His time in prison further enhanced his status within the communist underground as a true believer and committed revolutionary. 1936 to 1944, arrested multiple times for communist activities under King Carol II and later under the fascist Iron Guard regime. Between 1936 and 1944, Nicolae Ceaușescu was arrested multiple times for his underground communist activism. During this period, Romania was governed first by King Carol II's authoritarian monarchy and later by the fascist-aligned Iron Guard and Marshal Ion Antonescu's military dictatorship. As a devoted member of the banned Romanian Communist Party, PCR, Ceaușescu was actively involved in distributing anti-government and Marxist literature, organizing strikes, and illegal youth meetings opposing Romania's alignment with Nazi Germany. He spent significant time in Doftina prison and later in the Târgu Jiu internment camp, where he was considered both a political threat and a rising figure in the party. These years behind bars served as both punishment and political schooling, forging alliances with senior communists, most notably Gheorghe Gorgode, Romania's future communist leader. Rise to power of Nicolae Ceaușescu. The end of World War II, Romania fell under Soviet influence, and the previously outlawed Romanian Communist Party PCR took control of the government. Having built strong relationships with influential communists during his imprisonment, particularly Gheorghe Nicolae Ceaușescu was well positioned to climb the political ladder. Early post-war roles 1945 to 1965. After the war, Ceaușescu joined the People's Army and quickly rose to deputy Minister of Defense, known for his strict discipline and ideological loyalty. He became a trusted protege of Gorgode, Romania's first communist leader. From the late 1940s through the 1950s, he held key roles in party organization, propaganda, and internal security. In 1965, after Gorgode's death, Ceaușescu outmaneuvered rivals and was appointed General Secretary of the Romanian Communist Party, effectively becoming Romania's leader. Independent stance within the Eastern Bloc. Ceaușescu initially gained domestic and international support for adopting a more independent foreign policy. In 1968, he condemned the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia, refusing to participate in the Warsaw Pact's military suppression of the Prague Spring. This bold stance earned him praise in the West, leading to state visits with leaders such as Richard Nixon and Charles de Gaulle. Romania, under Ceaușescu, appeared to be charting a more nationalist and moderate path within the communist world. Popularity and image building during the late 1960s. Ceaușescu was seen as a moderizer. He promoted industrial development and economic reform. His regime reduced the visible presence of Soviet advisors in Romania. The Romanian people initially welcomed his nationalist rhetoric and anti-Soviet stance. However, this period of optimism would be short-lived, as Ceaușescu soon shifted toward authoritarianism, launching a brutal dictatorship defined by repression, economic mismanagement, and a suffocating cult of personality. Dictatorship and cult of personality 1965 to 1989. After becoming General Secretary of the Romanian Communist Party in 1965, Nicolae Ceaușescu consolidated power and transformed Romania into one of the most repressive and tightly controlled communist states in Eastern Europe. Over the next 2 decades, his rule was marked by extreme authoritarianism, a pervasive cult of personality, and devastating economic policies, establishing absolute contra Ceaușescu, quickly eliminated political rivals and centralized authority. The Securitate, Romania's secret police, became one of the most feared intelligence agencies in the Eastern Bloc, monitoring and crushing any opposition. Freedom of speech, press, and assembly were severely restricted. Dissent was brutally suppressed. The cult of personality inspired by leaders like Stalin, Kim Il-sung, and Mao. Ceaușescu built an intense cult of personality. His image was plastered across Romania on posters, statues, and in schools. Public life involved compulsory displays of loyalty, such as mass rallies, choreographed events, and glorifying speeches. His wife, Alina Ceaușescu, was elevated to a powerful and almost mythic status, receiving honorary academic titles and playing a significant role in the regime. Systematization and urban restructuring. From the 1970s, Ceaușescu launched the systematization program, aimed at forcibly modernizing Romania. Thousands of villages and historic neighborhoods were demolished to make way for uniform, apartment blocks. The massive palace of the parliament in Bucharest was constructed as a symbol of his regime's power, one of the largest and most expensive administrative buildings in the world, economic policies, and hardship. Ceaușescu borrowed heavily from Western countries in the 1970s to fund industrial projects. In the 1980s, facing massive debt, he imposed harsh austerity measures to repay loans, leading to severe shortages of food, electricity, heating, and basic goods. The Romanian population suffered from widespread poverty and declining living standards. Despite state propaganda claiming economic success,